What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to our Bible study. Okay, so we have got Exodus 24 for this time around. Summary of Exodus thus far-ish. Israelites were enslaved in Egypt for like 400 years. Moses, essentially works as an emissary of God. Plagues come to Egypt. Eventually Pharaoh lets them go. Even though he chases back after them a little bit later. But Israelites leave Egypt. They're eventually fully, completely, able to leave safely. And then they go through the wilderness a little bit. They've made it to Mount Sinai. And God's been giving them some instructions, essentially, for how they're supposed to live, how they're going to get to the promised land, and stuff like that. So, Moses is really the only one that's been hearing directly from God for the past couple of chapters. And that's where we are. That gets us to chapter 24. So, let's dive in. Then the Lord instructed Moses, "Come up here to me, and bring along Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of Israel's elders. All of you must worship from a distance. Only Moses is allowed to come near to the Lord. The others must not come near, and none of the other people are allowed to climb up the mountain with him." Then Moses went down to the people and repeated all the instructions and regulations the Lord had given him. All the people answered with one voice, "We will do everything the Lord has commanded." Okay, not sure if that because it says Moses repeated all the instructions and regulations. So, in my mind, that kind of implies that it's referring back to the past couple of chapters worth of instructions as well. So it would seem like the Israelites are saying, okay, yes, we'll do all of these things. Even the whole don't boil a young goat in its mother's milk. But anyway, that was that's just weird anyway. We'll see how well they actually follow up with this as time goes on, because the Israelites have not exactly been in the habit of fully actually following God's instructions when push comes to shove. So, anyway, so Moses is supposed to bring a few of Israel's elders a bit closer, but still at a distance. And then everybody else, I guess, is going to be like just completely off of or at the foot of Mount Sinai. But anyway, verse 4. Then Moses carefully wrote down all the Lord's instructions. Early the next morning, Moses got up and built an altar at the foot of the mountain. He also set up 12 pillars, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent some of the young Israelite men to present burnt offerings and to sacrifice bulls as peace offerings to the Lord. Moses drained half the blood from these animals into basins. The other half he splattered against the altar. So Moses wrote down all the instructions. I guess it almost sounds like, this was the end of the day. The previous couple of chapters were all instructions that God had given within the same day. And then God's like, okay, I'm going to let you rest. Go and tell the people what's going on. Tomorrow, bring some people to worship at a distance. And then Moses sets up the altars and all that kind of stuff. One altar, 12 pillars. Pretty much getting ready to worship God in a sense. I mean, that was one of the major acts of worship in that day and age was, giving offerings. And really, it still is today. It's just most of us don't think about it that much, because most of our offerings end up being monetary rather than, particular items. So, it's a lot easier to just kind of overlook or forget about it. Especially if you are like me and you give electronically. But anyway, it's still, it's been shown time and time again that, if you offer to God, what is asked, or especially if you give beyond what is asked, that God will come through and provide. Anyway, verse 7. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it aloud to the people. Again they all responded, "We will do everything the Lord has commanded. We will obey." Then Moses took the blood from the basins and splattered it over the people, declaring, "Look, this blood confirms the covenant the Lord has made with you in giving you these instructions." Okay, so the book of the covenant is that just referring to like the instructions Moses wrote down? I mean, that would make some sense, I guess. Because otherwise, what book of the covenant would there have been? Unless it was some written documentation of like the old covenant that God had made with like Abraham and or Isaac and Jacob and all that stuff. So I think Moses is just kind of like, all right, so just so we're clear, this is what God's asking you to do. You sure you're good with this? And then the people all say yes. And at that point, Moses uses some of the blood from the offerings to, confirm the covenant with them. I'm not entirely sure why the whole, splattering the blood on the people was involved with that. Point is, Moses is using that as a sign and a confirmation of this covenant being, initiated, so to speak. Alrighty, moving on to verse 9. Then Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel climbed up the mountain. There they saw the God of Israel. Under his feet there seemed to be a surface of brilliant blue lapis lazuli, as clear as the sky itself. And though these nobles of Israel gazed upon God, he did not destroy them. In fact, they ate a covenant meal, eating and drinking in his presence. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain. Stay there, and I will give you the tablets of stone on which I have inscribed the instructions and commands so you can teach the people." So Moses and his assistant Joshua set out, and Moses climbed up the mountain of God. Okay. So Moses and the elders climb up the mountain. It says they saw the God of Israel, which that particular instance of people seeing God is not really talked about much. Mostly we just think of the passing glimpse that Moses got one time, which I'm not sure has even happened yet. But they actually witnessed God in this case. So of course, God being God and, brilliant glory shining around him and all that kind of stuff. It's surprising, I guess, that not only were they able to see him, but they, like, were able to eat a meal in his presence. Like, this is not something that happens much in the Bible. I guess depending on what you mean by, in God's presence. Because New Testament stuff makes that a little less... At least once we get to the New Testament, that seems a little less rare. A little more common. But then, okay, so after they have the covenant meal, which may have been part of the whole worship, because the covenant meal often would have involved some of the offerings and things like that, so... but then after that, Moses and Joshua specifically go further up. Anyway, moving on to verse 14, and I think we'll wrap this up here. Moses told the elders, "Stay here and wait for us until we come back. Aaron and Hur are here with you. If anyone has a dispute while I am gone, consult with them." Then Moses climbed up the mountain, and the cloud covered it. And the glory of the Lord settled down on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. On the 7th day, the Lord called to Moses from inside the cloud. To the Israelites at the foot of the mountain, the glory of the Lord appeared at the summit like a consuming fire. Then Moses disappeared into the cloud as he climbed higher up the mountain. He remained on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. So, Aaron and Hur were the ones that, if I recall correctly, they were the ones helping Moses hold up his arms whenever the Amalekites attacked. Because whenever he held up the staff, the Israelite army was doing well in the battle. But when his arms grew tired, they helped him hold his arms up. So I guess they're kind of, second and third in command, in a sense, maybe, sort of. Or at least, high up on the totem pole. Certainly trusted by Moses with significant matters. So Moses climbed up further, and cloud covered the mountain, and the whole thing about the consuming fire, I mean, that was what it looked like before. So I guess, given that previous thing and, the way that it came, pretty much announcing that was God, when the Israelites saw that fire again, it should have been pretty clear that, oh yeah, this is God. God is here on this mountain talking with Moses. So, now it says Moses remained on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. It doesn't really specify whether that includes the first 7 days or whatever, that it was like just the cloud there before Moses really heard God. But anyway, it's still pretty long time. That was way longer of a time period than it seems like it was for the previous set of instructions that were given. But anyway, okay. I guess that kind of wraps things up for Exodus 24 then. Okay, so that's going to do it for now. Yeah, basic summary. Moses and the Israelites are getting ready for more instructions from God. Some of the elders get to go a little closer, but still most of the commandments given are going to be just God directly to Moses. But anyway, and in the meantime, Moses told the people how to handle things, if there's any trouble that arises while he's gone. But anyway, that's it for now. So, as always, like and share the video if you enjoyed it and want others to see. Subscribe and click the bell to get updates when I post new videos. Look down in the description for info on other social media pages and how to find and follow those. And of course, leave comments down below all that with any thoughts you have. So, yeah, that's it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully, I'll see you for the next chapter. But until then, stay cool, people.